Welcome to the David Spisak Show. I am absolutely delighted that you would take the time to join. Thank you so much in advance for your time. And as always, I will endeavor to generate a great ROI for the time that you're investing. And I'm going to have a lot of help doing that today because I'm joined by Brandon Hale. Brandon is the executive general manager of Fletcher Jones Audi in Costa Mesa, California, or not too far down the street from what I believe is the most legendary Mercedes-Benz dealership in quite possibly the world, I would say, and that's Fletcher Jones Motor Cars. So first and foremost, Brandon, I want to take the time to thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of your show.
Thank you. Thank you. So Brandon, as you probably know, absolutely nothing is planned or orchestrated on this podcast. I like to go kind of where things go. I do, obviously, like I said, always want to make sure to deliver a great ROI, and you, I think, you're going to make that easy, I think, on me today, because there's so many different areas that we could go into that I know people are going to find interesting, intriguing, and frankly, full of wisdom and good lessons that they could put in place of their business, whether they're in retail auto or not, frankly, but especially if they happen to be working in a dealership, in the sales department, sales management, departmental managers, of course, if they've gotten up to the executive level, like you, no matter what, I know they're going to walk away with multiple things that they could put into place. So I want to start by actually rewinding the tape a little bit, because I'm genuinely curious, and I know that a lot of people are, that they won't know who Brandon Hale is right now, and probably going to have curiosity like I am as to how did you end up? I mean, everybody can see right now, go onto LinkedIn, that you see you're very successful as the executive GM at Fletcher Jones Audi, number one, or actually one of the top Audi stores in the country. And, you know, obviously you've been in the business a long time, but how did you get here, where you are right here, right now? When did you get in the car business? Where did you start? Who influenced you along the way to help you get where you are today?
Well, let me give you the little bit of background that you're looking for. So I started in Northern California when I was 18 years old. My uncles were finance managers for two dealerships in Northern California.
Which ones?
So they were in, one was a Toyota dealership in Chico, California, and another one was a Nissan Hyundai dealership. And then later I went and worked for Whitmire Ford in Chico, California. So that's kind of where my career got off the ground. And my uncle had told me at that time, hey, I don't know if you can do this business, but I'm going to put you in. I'm going to put you in the game. And if you can do it, then great. If you can't, don't worry about it. So I got in and I started selling cars. And, you know, at 18 years old, I'm making 10 grand a month. The guy, Ron Ward, who is running the used car lot at the time, was a genius. The guy would go to the Bay Area, bring back cars, and he was selling like 120 used cars off of his lot. So that really taught me the core basics of old school, old fashioned selling cars. These guys didn't mess around. You did it the right way every time, or you couldn't deal with their customers.
Hey, you want to hear something crazy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know the name? Have you ever heard of Larry Givicki Ford?
Yeah, I've heard that name. Yes.
Larry Givicki Ford was in Marysville, California.
Oh,
just south of Chico. And my first sales manager gig was in 1985 at Larry Givicki Ford.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's amazing.
Yeah. Small world. So I actually lived in the great metropolis of Yuba City at the time.
I know Yuba City well.
Yes. I also know the Pioneer Saloon up in Chico quite well.
Okay.
No, not Pioneer Saloon. It was Pioneer Days that they would do every year at Chico State. Just legendary shenanigans, as you know. And I knew, Sierra Nevada was home up there in Chico. And and Madison Bear Garden, I think was the name of the place.
Madison Bear, the famous Madison Bear Garden.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool that you come from those very cool, humble beginnings. So how does a kid start out at Whitmire Ford, which is there to this day for everybody listening? Winmeyer Ford is still there. How does a 18-year-old kid start out there? Clearly is doing pretty well if you're making 10 grand back then. How do you end up transitioning from there down to Southern Cal? How did that happen?
Well, I decided to move to Southern California in 2000, and then I went to work for a guy named Cushman out of San Diego. He owned 6 or 7 dealers, some in Escondido, some in the Valley. He was a pretty well-to-do guy. He owned all of Mission Valley. And so I went to work for him as a salesperson. And so I just wanted to get out of the Northern California lifestyle, if you know what I mean. Too many dollar pints at Sierra Nevada.
That's right.
So I moved up to Southern California, and I started working at the Honda dealership, and made my way up to a used car manager. I'd always had a thing for used cars, and so I was a pretty young guy at 23, being a used car manager and working for a guy named Mike Creel. That gave me my first opportunity, and and then from there, I stayed there, and my brother happened to be working at the famous Fletcher Jones store. So he kept trying to get me to come work in Orange County, and I finally one day said, well, come. So I came up. I was commuting from San Diego, and that opportunity is what really opened the door for me, because I didn't realize where my sales skills, how far they had progressed. Because when you're working at a small Honda store and you're doing everything the right way and you've had good training, I was selling 20 to 25 Hondas at this store, and I had some significant training. But when I got to Fletcher Jones, I was so lucky to. It was a really hard place at the time to get a job, because I'm talking the best of the best salespeople in the world were at this store. And when I tell you that, I'm not kidding. These people were making a ton of money. The Fletcher Jones family always took care of their salespeople. You had salespeople that were making 50, 60 grand a month selling Mercedes. And that was unheard of to me, coming out of a Honda store. So when I started there, they had incredible management. And in my first year, I got lucky enough. I worked really hard. I was commuting from San Diego, working 9 to 9, belling basically every day, because there was more opportunity at this store than I had ever seen in my life. And I was more than just a hungry kid. I was starving. And so I really wanted to make a name for myself. So I buckled down, and somehow at the end of the year, I had more sales points. We did a point system, and I outsold every one of those titans at that store for that year. So in my very first year, I was good enough to earn Salesman of the Year. And then at that point, my brother was like, dude, I didn't know you could sell cars like this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm good at it. And he's like, why don't we join up and make a team? So we went to the general manager at the time, his name was Garth Blumenthal, and he was a legend, visionary guy. And we asked him if we could start a team called the Hale Brothers. And so he's like, yeah, let's do it. And so him and I joined teams, and we were selling, to fast forward the story a little bit, we basically had 3 sales assistants, and we had 4 other salespeople that we recruited to work with us over the years. So what we would do is we would find people that were hardworking, that didn't know how to market like we did, because we were marketers, and they let us take over their database of clients. We marketed for them as them part of our group. And we were, at one point we were getting, Fletcher Jones was giving us, $100 grand a year to market our team, because then we had 10,000 clients that would only buy off of my brand in Newport Beach. And a funny story is, I remember my brother came to me. I said, hey, I'm going to do a website. And this is when websites are still pretty new. And we were doing all the flip technology and on the phones. We were the first ones videoing cars. I feel like I had a YouTube channel back then. And looking back on it from where we are today in video, it was light years ago. But I built a website with them. We built a whole website, and he's like, listen, if you can get a website going and if you could sell 5 cars a month off of it, then you're going to do really good. I said, great. So I built a website. I've always been into technology, and I started getting 1,000 leads a month off this thing. And so we just built this thing up where we were doing 10% of Fletcher Jones Mercedes business. And so then it was like we were very, from being in Newport Beach, having 10,000 clients, I was up to doing, my brother had left about 2 years into the relationship. So I recruited some more salespeople, and then I got the business where we were doing 25 to 30 repeat and referrals every year out of that, every month out of that store. So, it was a very busy time. And then I graduated from that. I said, you know what? I want to have kids. I'm married. I wanted some balance. My cell phone at that point was literally ringing 100 times a day. I couldn't even get in a round of golf without my phone going off, because we were delivering world-class guest experience to these guests. When I talk about the experience, we did everything that a sales manager would tell a salesperson to do. We had a 25 contact. We contacted our clients 25 times a year. My retention that I came up with started when we handed the customer the keys. So that's when I really started our retention. And then we contacted the client 25 times a year after that. And that's how I built the retention business that I had. And most salespeople would say, they don't even remember who the sales guy was that bought the car. So I wanted to change that dynamic. I took Polaroid pictures with every client. I bought refrigerator magnets so they could put my picture with them on their refrigerator. We gave them keychains so that if they lost their keys, they could call in and I would know whose keys they were by the number, how I numbered them. We would set service appointments for these clients and meet them in the service drive and get them in and out of the dealership and get them in a loaner car. So we were doing such things on a high level because I believed that I could build the business and I could become the number one salesperson in the country year after year if I could build loyalty. But I had to have the support of the entire Fletcher Jones management team, Keith May, Heather Lewis, all of these people helped me because I could not have done it just by myself. But the level of service that I delivered these people, I think, was top notch. And so that's why people come back, is they wanted that experience. And so, but I'm going to tell you, after doing that for 10 years, that burns out, and I wanted to forward my career. So I went to these guys and I said, hey, I need to go to GM school. I'm not going to be selling these cars like this forever. I cannot keep up this pace, doing, hundreds of cars a month and having great CSI and all the things. So after some shrewd negotiation back and forth between a couple of people, I got them to send me to GM school. So I went to NADA school, came out. In 2017, I was a senior sales manager there, desking lots of deals, been involved in hundreds of thousands of transactions, and waited patiently for an opportunity to open. I never thought the grass was greener, jumping from store to store. That's why I've been here for 22 years, and they've always done right by me. And I think they're the best company in the world. If you're going to sell a car or be involved in sales, then Fletcher Jones is the very, very top, in my opinion, of where to work. And you don't have to take my opinion. You could interview 20 to 30 people that work here or there, and they're going to tell you the exact truth. We get the best people in the world coming to sell these cars.
They could certainly take my opinion as well. There's been a couple of occasions. I want to say one of them was somebody looking for a fixed op director, another one F&I manager. And when I just happened to see those posts that they said they were looking for somebody, I just can't help but comment and let's say, you got to understand, this is like the best retail auto organization, luxury dealer group on planet Earth. And this is the literally opportunity of a lifetime to work with the best, amongst the best, be the best, for the best. So I'm all in. I've been fortunate enough to know that organization and the people in it since 2011, I believe. And they just year after year after year, it's by no accident, Brandon, that they are always on top, Mercedes-Benz and also Audi. I wanted to ask you something. So you're clearly making a ton of money. You have no responsibility, so to speak, right? No manager's responsibility. And at that point, you're selling so many cars. You've developed such a level of trust and confidence with ownership, with leadership, you could honestly do what you wanted to do. You have a team, but something innately, something inside you drove you to say, I got more in me. I want to do something else. So you mentioned, got married, had kids. Certainly that plays a role, but let's be honest. If you're going to work for a legendary organization like Fletcher, it's not like you become a manager and it's all of a sudden you've got bank teller hours, 9 to 5. You're still 6 days a week. You're still full throttle. So was there a difference between somehow the way you envisioned being a manager in that store versus the reality? Was there any kind of a wake-up call or any kind of a disconnect that you had to kind of grow into, where you felt somehow I finally want to be, or I get to be a manager at this incredible organization, and then you got into that role and thought, man, this is different?
Yeah, the difference was at that scale. For me, I was lucky enough to have the pedigree of selling all of these cars. So, they always say, well, a great salesperson isn't always a great manager. Well, I always felt that I'm a better leader and manager than I was a salesperson. And so one of the first hurdles was getting the people that were above me to believe that and take me out of production. Because when you have somebody producing that kind of volume, they don't want you to leave. They want you to keep doing what you're doing. And so I had to convince them that I'm actually a better leader for your company than I am a salesperson. And so that was the first challenge. But then when I ended up getting the sales manager position and actually decisioning deals and running the sales team and doing the day-to-day task, they quickly realized that I probably was a pretty good manager and a leader, because when you have the skill of selling and you understand how to deal with the very top people in the country, because these people know how to work pay plans inside and out. And if you are not a strong desk manager or a strong manager, you will get put together so quick on a trade-in, on a car, because of the years of relationship. So I felt like I wasn't a very easy target for the salespeople, for like an Alex Levatas to come and talk to me, because I would know exactly where he was in his deal, because I had the same experience he did at that point. And so being able to lead these people, though, it was just an incredible honor, because every day that you're working with this type of talent, you're learning something new every day from a manager's position that you didn't even know as a salesperson. That's how skilled some of these people are in building relationships, and the behaviors, and how they ask somebody if they want a glass of water, if they want it room temperature or cold. All of these little nuances in hospitality is what promotes that place so much. They just treat people different. It's the big consolidating stores and the big consolidating companies that buy these stores that really actually lose the guest experience. And Fletcher Jones, what we've done really good at least in my store, and I know in Dave's store, is that we still concentrate and worry about the guest experience. It's all about giving a world-class guest experience, meaning making it something that gives them a wow experience. I mean, it's all about the little things that you can do that at the end of the day, people go, wow, I'd buy a car. I'll remember who that guy was. And then the follow-up.
Hey, Brandon.
The retention starts when we give them those keys.
So a couple things, and I appreciate you sharing. There's so much for people to hold on to. One of the things I want anybody who's listening, hopefully this is as memorable for you as it is for me. But you didn't say, we think about the guest experience. You said we worry about the guest experience. And that's a completely different level. So when you hear somebody talk about our intentions to deliver a great guest experience, or our meetings talking about a great guest experience, we all know as human beings, when you get to the point, if you're worried about it, that means it's like you're obsessing over something, right? And
yeah, absolutely.
That's a different level of caring. And I really believe one of the biggest things missing in our business, and in some stores, I don't know that they've ever had it, is that other word you said, which is hospitality. Why can't we have hospitality in the service drive? Why shouldn't we have hospitality when somebody walks in? I was just in a store. I don't try to remember which store it was, but I went into this store recently, and the first thing the person up front asked me is, would you like water? I said, I'd love a water. Would you like sparkling or would you like still? Wow, there's a choice. I was sparkling. No, they didn't ask me room temperature or cold. If my wife was with them and they said room temperature or cold, she would have said room temp every time. She doesn't like cold water. But just the level of attention to detail, the nuances, the caring, the compulsion or obsession to deliver that great experience, that's a different level. It's not enough to talk about it. You have to have that level of caring so much that you worry about it. When I was speaking to Dave Gonzalez, I was fortunate enough to speak with Dave also. God, it must have been a year ago or so. He was on the podcast. And at one point he said, David, I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed that I wake up every day with already having 400 cars sold. I wake up on the first of the month, already having 400 cars sold. And I said, what are you talking about? You already have 400 cars sold. He says, I have 13 people that sell at least 30 cars a month. So, you're talking about the fact that you came in, you ran hard, you put your head down, you're commuting from San Diego. You're working bell to bell, all in, every day, all day, right? And you work hard enough, and fortunate enough to end up being number one. I just want people to understand, to be number one in any dealership, that's an achievement. I don't think most people know what being number one at Fletcher Jones Motor Cars, what that takes. I want you to imagine that every time you're playing a round of golf, you're playing against the 9 best golfers on planet Earth, right? Every time you're racing in Formula, it's the 9 best people who have ever raced in Formula One. That's Fletcher Jones to me. So you're up against like an Alex Levatas, who, as you know, I bought a lot of my cars from. He's a legend, 30 plus years, guys. And he's got a team like you did. But there's just an unbelievable environment to grow up in, to mature in, to become a manager in. I mean, not just an opportunity, Brandon, but you got to look at that and go, man, that's quite a bar to live up to be a manager at Fletcher Jones and to keep people at that level. And you only do that also, I'm just curious, do you agree you could only do that by actually having a servant mindset for those salespeople, right?
Oh, 100%. Servant leadership, it's about giving. Leaders get in trouble when they quit caring for other people. Leaders see more than what others see. And so for me, I think Dr. Maxwell said it best. He said, in every area, everything rises and falls on leadership. So I've watched this come to reality in my business 1,000 times. So it's just, you have to basically serve these people. You have to want them to get better. Not only the salespeople, but you've probably heard this 1,000 times, but I truly mean this, is that when I sell somebody a car, I'm not selling them a car. I'm helping them buy a car.
Sure.
I'm building
Big
a
difference.
Relationship with them. And if you have that mentality and you basically understand how to build a relationship and you do more listening than talking, and you learn how to elicit and do that with, if you learn how to elicit people and learn how to do that with empathy, then there's this little part in their brain that if you stop asking questions and you start making statements and getting people to talk, there's this little part in their brain that doesn't open up. When you ask a silly question, and this is one of the things that I would teach these people, when you ask a silly question to a customer, there's this little mechanism that goes up in their brain that goes, uh-oh, red flag. I don't know this guy. He's asking me a question. When you learn to elicit information out of people and listen more than you talk, you get them in a cognitive loop. And when they start talking to you and they run it on for 3 minutes, all of a sudden their brain is like, hey, I trust this guy. And so those are the techniques that I would teach my salespeople. And then I would just serve them well. I try to serve the dealership well. I try to serve my boss well. I try to serve everybody well. I just try to do things the most ethical way that I could because, I'm knock on wood. I've been here and selling, I don't even know how many cars, thousands of cars, hundreds of thousands of cars. I always do it the most ethical way. I've never been in one court case with anyone because I just tell the truth and I tell them exactly what they need to know and how it's supposed to be done. And if you do that with people, you'll have customers for life.
Hey, Brandon, thank you for sharing that. It's great wisdom. I don't know if using the word finally is appropriate, but you finally got an opportunity to have your own store back in 2020.
It took a while.
and I'm curious of a couple things, Brandon. You took over Audi in Costa Mesa, one of the largest Audi stores in America, created one of the largest Audi stores in America, brought that legendary Fletcher Jones DNA into that store. By the time you got in there in 2020, you mentioned that you started selling cars at 18. Can I ask what year that was?
1995.
Okay. And the reason I wanted to know is so it took you 25 years, head down, working your butt off, delivering at the highest level for 25 years in a row. I'll tell you what, that's impressive. I'm wondering from your perspective, the 25 years that you put in and you finally get to be that leader, that GM of your own store, how well did those 25 years serve you? Working for Fletcher Jones for all that time. How well did that time and experience serve you the first day when you walked into the Audi store?
Well, it was invaluable because for 25 years, I had been building a playbook to bring it into a store. All I needed was an opportunity. And then they finally gave me an opportunity. And so I had the playbook built from those 25 years of running the biggest store in the country. I had the playbook made. So when I came in, it was an advantage. But I look back farther than that. I mean, I remember being at Whitmire Ford. We talked about that. I remember Grant Cardone and his team coming into Whitmire Ford and teaching leasing and spending the entire weekend with us as a bunch of closers running around. And then me being sold his 8 cassette tapes that I walked around with a Walkman on my head. I was that nerd walking around the dealership realizing, oh my God, there is a new way to talk to people. And that was who I was. So I was trying to really figure out the business. And so all of the experience from that moment all the way through my my luxury experience at Fletcher Jones and learning from these incredible people that knew what hospitality was. I didn't really know what hospitality was coming from a Honda store, but boy, did I learn quick. I learned quick, how to get the door for somebody, how to offer them cold or room temperature water, how to throw 2 coasters down when I put their water down. I learned so much so quick because I wanted to be the very best. I wanted to be the best in the world. And then, when I started there, I had a goal. I told my brother when he's the one who recruited me in there, I said, "Hey, I'm going to run Fletcher Jones someday." And he said to me, "Will you stop it? You just need to focus and sell cars. These managers don't leave. They're like dinosaurs. You're never going to get a job doing any of that." And I said, "Well, okay." And so here I am, this far along.
Is your brother still in the business?
No. He's a marketing guy. He runs his own magazine, and he's very successful.
Very cool. I want you to ask. I'm curious. Think back to the exact day when Keith or somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, I want to offer you the opportunity to be the general manager at Audi Costa Mesa." Do you remember that day?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was amazing.
When he first said that to you, I'm curious. I watch people, sometimes you watch marathon races, and sometimes somebody runs at 26.2. They've trained for months or years, and they get to that ribbon and they literally fall over. They can't fall another step. Or you see, I remember Steph Curry winning the championship one year and the MVP award, and he literally crumbled. And it's almost like I got there. I finally made it. I achieved that goal. Did you have that kind of a feeling or sensation on that day? What was that like?
Oh yeah, it was definitely, for me, it was unbelievable, certainly emotional. One of the highlights of my entire life. When a group like this approaches you after I've literally felt like I've been in the trenches, and they ask you to come and represent them, it was for me, it was an amazing day. I felt like, wow, I can't believe I'm finally getting this opportunity. You have to remember, I went to GM school in 2017.
That's why I asked.
They sat on me for 3 years, and I stayed here. Yeah. And I've had so many opportunities, like we all have, to leave this company or go do something for somebody else. But I've been pretty loyal, and I'm going to tell you, I think my loyalty is paying off because there's just not many of us left. Heather Lewis is one of them. She started with me. She's been a big advocate, and she supported me a ton to become the general manager of this store. And so I think I still have, there's still hope for me that I still have a brighter future with Fletcher Jones in this organization.
So in other words,
that's how much I believe in them.
You're not done yet.
No, I have too much in me. I have too much knowledge in me. I have too many people to lead. I just feel like I can do a lot more things in this industry. So for sure.
I want to kind of go off on a little bit of a tangent, but it does have some connectivity to what you just said.
Sure.
I have so much to offer to this industry. You have a Substack, right? And for
Automotive Risk.
For anybody who is listening, you got to be a little bit of a geek to know what a Substack is. I mean, in all honesty, I'm a geek of the highest order. I'm a data geek. I'm a knowledge geek. I'm an industry geek. I like to geek out on a lot of things. I love learning. I'm hyper curious. And I find that if I said the word Substack to 100 humans walking the street or in a mall, I would venture to say a good 90 would say, "What are you talking about?" Right? Do you agree?
Yeah.
A lot of people.
100%.
So what in God's green earth were you thinking about? What was the motivation or the impetus or the inspiration for saying, you know what, I got to get some stuff out on out of my head and put it out onto the Substack that very few people even know existed. Like, what caused that to happen? And when was that? When did you start your Substack?
I started my Substack about a year and a half ago, and I love writing. I think I think I'm a really good communicator, but I think my writing is better. And I thought, I have so many experiences with people, and just being a frontline person for so many years. I have so much experience in writing process. I have so much experience in, now at this point, running a very successful dealership, that I thought, you know what, Substack is a great place, because Substack is basically it's a blog site that is growing. And I would encourage everybody right now, if they don't know what Substack is to go check it out, because it is growing. I heard they're adding another 50 categories, and automotive just wasn't really represented the way I wanted it represented there. There's very few of us writing in the automotive space on Substack. And if you look on there, you can find everything from politics, all the big politics people, the TV people, all these people have their own Substacks now, because it is a free platform where you can literally write, and you can monetize your writings if you're good enough. But you can find a following, and it's long form writing where they have that on LinkedIn, and I use LinkedIn, but I haven't done any really long form writing, and this is a long form. And if you like to read long form, I love to read long form. So I don't just read my stories. I read a lot of different, there's a lot of different avenues that you can read on there. And my spare time, I like to read. And so, but now they're getting into video, and this is an up and coming platform where if you don't have a space on there, you should probably go get one and start working it, because this Substack, in my opinion, is exploding, and it's just getting started.
I love it.
So Dave, you need to go get your Substack.
I got to get myself a Substack. So one of the people I've interviewed on a couple of occasions, I'm a big fan of his, Glenn Mercer. I consider him the foremost researcher in retail automotive, or the automotive industry. He's had a Substack forever on there. And so I know that he would echo literally everything you just said. There's some really intelligent folks on there. And so I will take your words under advisement, and consider in my free time starting to write a Substack. But before we wrap up, I wanted to pivot one more time, if it's okay.
Yeah.
So you had a LinkedIn post recently, a couple of them about Carvana and CarMax. It caught my eye. I've been writing about Carvana for quite some time, and I consider myself an incredibly objective, person when it comes to anytime I bring something up or discuss it. I don't really have an axe to grind. And, I started writing about CarMax, when they first started coming up, and then I really started jumping on them, frankly, as I watched their stock go into free fall, Brandon, from $371 down to $4 in December of 22. And I was not shy about, how I felt about the way that had come about and things that had transpired to make that happen. Now, at the time, they fell down to that really frightening place where they believed they were worth less than $1 billion. They, the CFO and, of course, executive leadership, Bernie Garcia Jr., came up with a brilliant 3-step plan that they executed with flawless discipline and consistency. And they may very well be the greatest turnaround story in the history of the stock market, now worth well over $50 billion. And I last time I wrote about them was about a month ago, as I was watching their stock was up 81% for the year, while CarMax, I think at the time, was down around 35, 39%. I said, wow, these two companies are going in polar opposite directions. Very interesting. And, you wrote a couple of posts, very well written, very nuanced in some respects, but I think absolutely spot on. And you not only kind of called that out because, anybody on LinkedIn could say when we talk about a CarMax or Carvana in that situation that, hey, you're calling out the obvious. One's going this way. One, yeah, I get it. Okay, we see it. But it really isn't about that. It's a bigger picture than that. It's about what does that signal as a shift in terms of how these incredibly bright minds, these Wall Street analysts and investors at large are looking at the direction of these two companies. What does it signal about the used car industry at large? What does it signal about, hey, are we looking at some rougher waters ahead? So was that kind of the way you looked at it, Brandon? And what kind of inspired you to write that particular post? What was it about CarMax and Carvana, where they are in their journey right now, that made you sit there and go, oh man, I got to write about this?
Yeah. So to me, CarMax and Carvana, they're high profile, but they're not the entire market. Their struggles is exactly what you said. It's the signal flare that the pressures are on everything, on inventory costs, credit risk, operational discipline, and customer experience. So what I meant when I said this isn't about CarMax, it's really just a signal flare for the entire used car industry. CarMax gets the headlines, but the pressures, the loan losses, the affordability, the acquisition discipline, the credit risk, they're hurting every dealer. If anything, CarMax just makes those things more visible. So I was just trying to point that out. So
there's another story, Brandon, is another aspect of this, though, and I agree with everything you said, that if it can happen to CarMax, which has exhibited 30 years of commitment to process and brilliant strategy execution and discipline, extreme discipline with acquisition, if it can happen to them, holy cow, hold on to your pants if you don't have those things as an individual store or a group. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's the whole ecosystem, because whether you have 200 dealerships or two, we're all facing those same very headwinds. Those same headwinds are hitting us in the face. And so, everybody can talk about, we can use it. You can say it's like a used, it's about dollars tied up versus historical sales velocity. You can say it's about, making better acquisitions. But what I'm feeling is I'm somebody that's a big proponent of trying to obviously find cars that are serviced here at the dealership. So we work the hell out of the service drive. But the problem is those cars are getting harder and harder to find. You're not where we were buying 50 a month. We might be buying 15 or 20 a month. And so that's forcing us to go back to the auctions where we really don't want to be, but then we get forced on making sure we have high PVRs and making sure. So it's not just my dealership. This is not just CarMax. It's not just Carvana. This is like the world we are right now. And I'll tell you where I think it comes from. I think it comes from, right now we're having the EV credit, I think, is going to do, I'm optimistic that it's going to do better things for us, because when that EV credit ends today, I think you're going to stop seeing over a little bit of time. You still might lose 3 to 5% on the used cars, but over time it's going to level out the pre-owned cars. And some of this headwind that we're seeing might calm down just a little bit, because when you have EVs being sold, well, especially in California, all over the, for the new thing is a $75,000 car is $399 a month. That puts a lot of pressure on downward pressure on the used car market, and it makes that market start to slide, because why would I buy a pre-owned car when I could drive a $70,000 car for $399 a month? So I think the sooner this $7,500 credit goes away, I think things are going to stabilize just a little bit.
Brandon, another question that is probably on a lot of people's minds. I have my own assertions, my own beliefs, but with all that being said, the downward pressure with affordability continuing to be problematic, with an ever increasing percentage of cars being sold are older and older. So in other words, over 50% of cars are 9 years old or older. The 3 to 4 year old cars that we all used to rely on, we're still in the bottom of that used car trough because 3 years ago, we still didn't have a lot of leasing. In 2022, we have a lot more people that are going to show up at that fishing pond all looking for the same fish than we had before. Of course, new car affordability is drawing even more attention to that used car pond where people are attempting to do acquisition off the street in the service drive. We've got people holding on to their cars longer than they used to, choosing to fix their cars, buy their cars off lease rather than re-entering the new car. I mean, you have all these dynamics and all the pressures you mentioned about used cars. So why is it in your mind that are we seeing Carvana experiencing such tremendous growth in the value of their stock and the way that the street, the analysts are looking at Carvana in terms of going this way versus CarMax, which is, like I said, has run a brilliant play for 3 decades. Is this saying the fact that they're going in different directions, is this saying, number one, Carvana's business model today is far better positioned than CarMax in the minds of some people because they don't have the big brick and mortar. They don't have maybe some legacy overhang. Maybe they have more efficiency because they bought ADESA and they've got these regionalized reconditioning centers, delivery centers. Is it about cost and about more efficiency there? Or is it about the fact that the play that CarMax has run successfully year after year is starting not to work as well?
Those are all very good questions, and I don't have a crystal ball. I have some thoughts on Carvana. They just sold those 3.7 million shares, so maybe that's just a liquidity play. But in context, it kind of raises eyebrows. Carvana's model is different than CarMax's model. Carvana's model leans heavily on back-end financial instruments like Bridgecrest bundling. That's allowed them to overpay in the lanes, but it looks risky in the market slows, and then those bundles lose appeal. It kind of reminds me of the housing crisis when they were selling all the loans in bundles. So we're going to have to see what ends up happening to Carvana as we get farther down the road. We don't know because of it's so, in my opinion, CarMax is built on brick and mortar, traditional algorithms that they've built, but CarMax is built on the market, and the market, we don't know what the foundation really looks like.
Don't you think Carvana just bought their second dealership, yep, which allows them to show up at new car auctions. People might say, why in the heck would you need to buy a Stellantis store? I don't know. At least it allows me another source to go into auctions that I couldn't go into yesterday. Perhaps this works out well, and I all of a sudden buy another franchise and a third franchise and a fifth franchise, and I wake up 2 years from now having access to every major franchise's used car auto auctions. I don't know. And they also have, I would think, some kind of a distinct advantage on CarMax just because they have the ADESA auto auction from a sourcing play and a reconditioning play. So I don't you think that some of those things purely from a business model afford them some competitive advantages and also operational cost advantages?
Oh, I absolutely do. I think we're all in awe of how these Carvana, first it was CarMax. I remember when they first got into business, it was like, oh my God, these are awesome retailers. I think Carvana, it's, there's been some peaks and valleys in their business model. So I don't think that, in my opinion, it's proven out as far as like CarMax's business model has been. We're just happening to see one of the valleys in CarMax, and I think that Carvana, their agility to appraise a car, to buy a car, it's definitely caught the public's attention. Their ease of doing business. I don't think they're going anywhere. I think these people are serious players that are here to disrupt and change our marketplace, and we're foolish if we don't think they are. And that's where dealers have to continue to evolve, because regardless if you're Carvana or CarMax, market compression will happen at some point. It just depends on what their holdings are. Is there holdings in land? Is there holdings in cars? I mean, there's so many factors that run into how they evaluate their business.
Brandon, from your perspective, and again, no crystal ball, but as you sit here now, a couple of questions might be interesting. Number one, are you betting as you move forward that CarMax and Carvana stock continues to grow? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Are you betting that here's another one. Would you bet on Carvana or Amazon being a bigger threat to retail automotive in terms of where they go from here in their impact on the used car industry?
Really funny. I'm putting out an article tomorrow on this. I think Amazon is going to be a major player. They're a little bit slower to get started, but I
think by
they
design.
already have they have the trust of 200 million or how many ever people they have to point, click, and buy a car. So I think that that's where this is going. But I also think of a Carvana gets to ride on those coattails, because once people get comfortable, like they do with Tesla, point clicking and buying a car, once they get comfortable on Amazon because of their trusted service, then people are going to naturally go, oh, if I can do this on Amazon, I can do this on Carvana too. And that's where the OEMs in this country and the dealerships have to evolve. They have to keep up. And so it's going to be we're never going to be as big as those. But I think right now we're at a point where we can actually get some of our customers back. And I think we can get them back through experience and loyalty and where I don't think that those operations offer the type of experience that individual dealers can actually provide if they really wanted to.
I'm glad that you landed there, because as we start to head up towards the top of the hour and wrapping up, I'm going to go back to that word hospitality. I mentioned to a couple dealers earlier today, that you can take the best dealers out there are using their talent and their culture as a competitive moat. And Fletcher Jones has done that year after year after year. It's a competitive moat. It's not. I think a lot of people might be prone to go to NADA and say, well, I need to buy the same lights Fletcher Jones uses. I need to have the same computer system Fletcher Jones has. I need to have. No. If you can't replicate, you probably be difficult to do so, because this wasn't created overnight. But that incredible ability they have, that DNA, that culture, that obsession with hospitality, and that obsession for taking care of their own associates, that has allowed them to create this incredible environment where the best of the best want to work. You can't compete with that. And Carvana can't compete with that. And CarMax can't compete with that. Like, no dealership is going to be able to compete on an equal level from a technology perspective, right? They're not going to be able to compete. These guys got 150, 200 million clients, say at Amazon. Carvana obviously has built this level of trust in transparency in their acquisition process, but they don't have hospitality. They don't have the ownership experience. They're not going to nurture a long-term client relationship that yields car after car after car. Don't you think at the end of the day, even with all the technology, Brandon, that it's interesting the secret sauce is so low tech? It's about the human side. Do you agree with that?
100%. It's all about relationships. We're a people business. I think the more you can stay on the people side of the business is the more success you're going to have. Because I have so many relationships, and I'm grateful and thankful that I do. I know so many people that have bought cars off me. My phone still rings today. I still help people buy cars today. And I think the service that you get, which just from our service drives and the knowledge that the people have, it's a totally different experience than going. And if you want to buy a car and not have any interaction with anybody, then maybe Fletcher Jones isn't the opportunity for you today. We might be in the future, but today you're going to be able to talk to people, interact with people. Somebody's actually going to show you how to use your car and all the instruments in it. You're not going to have to watch a YouTube video to figure out how to turn on your air conditioning.
Yeah, I love it. Well, listen, before I let you go, I'm curious, what was the first car you ever owned?
It was a 1976 CJ7 yellow.
Not terrible.
4-cage roll bar.
Not
Can you believe
terrible.
that?
Actually, not bad. I had a 1970 Chevelle that was kind of a light canary yellow with an olive green vinyl bench seat and more body rot than you've ever seen in your life. You literally can poke your index finger through the side of my car. So you were doing okay as compared to me. I got one last question. Actually, finish this statement for me. Yeah. I love the car business because...
I love the car business because I get to lead people and help them change their lives through being a general manager at Fletcher Jones.
Brandon, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you. I was looking forward to this conversation, and you absolutely exceeded expectations, as I'm sure you do every single time you work with a client or an associate for that matter. I thank you for all the wisdom that you shared. I took a lot of notes. I put the worry about the wow, the hospitality, the fact that this is a guy who spent 25 years head down, delivering the highest level, relentlessly, consistently, waiting for that opportunity. And when it came, it was like one of the biggest days of your life. And you walked in starving, and you continue to work every day like you were starving. Something tells me that hasn't changed. I love the fact that the average person, 90% of clients can't remember who they bought a car from 1 year ago. When you contact your clients, people, 25 times a year, not only will they remember you, they will never forget you. You will be like no other. So these things and so many of the other things, the key chains, the magnets, setting service appointments for them, creating loyalty, just putting that much thought into wanting to create a phenomenal, memorable relationship is truly uncommon, as uncommon as Fletcher Jones is. So I want to thank you for sharing all of those things. I will obviously keep those in my brain, and I sincerely hope everybody who's listening got as much out of this as I did. If you did take the time to listen, and you're doing so now, I want to thank you one last time. Please go to davidspisak.com, and you could learn how to reach out to Brandon. You could get a connection to his Substack. If you want to subscribe, I would highly recommend you do so, or connect with him on LinkedIn to learn more about his leadership philosophies and how he's built a great culture over the years. I want to thank you, and also, if you'd be so kind to share this episode out to anybody who you think may benefit from it. But mostly, again, thank you for taking the time. Brandon, thank you for giving me your time. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
And I will see everybody next time on the David Spisak Show. All the best.